As we celebrate the International Women's Day on March 8th of every year, let us try to understand how did the Women's Day come about and why this specific date of March 8th is being used for International Women's Day. We know that there has been a historical process of discrimination against women, not only in India but across the world. And women were denied the basic human rights. Women were in fact disproportionately burdened in the family relations. Women have always been a victim of violence against them. And along with that, women were not given any social, political and economic rights. And this situation, it started changing in 19th century Europe. And the start of this thing, it came about in the form of women suffrage movement. Suffrage means voting right. In European societies and in USA, women for the first time started demanding for voting rights so that their voice would be heard in the political fora, so that a real transformation to women's lives will happen. And this women's suffrage movement in Europe and USA started celebrating International Women's Day at various days, and there was no fixed date for International Women's Day. But with time, the women rights movement, it got associated with the socialist movement in Europe. As socialism stood against all forms of exploitation, it also stood with feminism and supported the movements for women rights. And because of this reason, the socialism and feminism, they in fact combined together, and they also started pushing for women's rights, and they also started talking about International Women's Day. And even though they did not fix any particular day, they started celebrating them in the early part of the 20th century. But after that, one significant event which led to the declaration of March 8th as International Women's Day is the Russian Revolution of 1917. And the Russian Revolution of 1917, it occurred as part of two revolutions. One revolution is the March Revolution, and the second one is the November Revolution. And when it comes to the March Revolution, in the March Revolution, that is in 1917, March 8th, what happened is some women workers who are working in the textile industries of Petrograd, unable to tolerate the oppressive rule of Tsar Nicholas II, unable to tolerate the problems which have come about because of the First World War, which led to problems of food, that is bread, and livelihood problems have emerged in Europe because of the First World War, unable to tolerate Tsarism, unable to tolerate absence of food, unable to tolerate absence of dignity in society. The women in large number, without any leader of their own, they in fact stuck their work, that is they conducted a strike, and they came onto the streets of Petrograd opposing the rule of Tsar and demanding for bread and peace, that is to end the First World War. And this movement was such a substantial movement that the women who got mobilized on the street, they inspired a generation of leaders in Russia. And once they got mobilized, immediately within 7 days, the ruler, that is Tsar Nicholas II, he was overthrown. And this is the real start of the Russian Revolution, and because of which reason, Vladimir Lenin, he declared March 8th as International Women's Day. And this practice of March 8th being celebrated as International Women's Day, it was initially done only in the socialist countries, but with time, in the year 1975, United Nations also accepted March 8th as an International Women's Day. And this year, that is the year 2025, the UN has given a theme for International Women's Day, and the theme of International Women's Day for now is for all women and girls, rights, equality and empowerment is the theme. Okay, for women and girls, rights, equality and empowerment is the theme of UN this year for International Women's Day. Then along with that, the International Women's Day, it stood for the issues of gender equality, and apart from gender equality, it stood for reproductive rights for women, and it also stood for violence or against violence and abuse against women. So it always opposed. So all of these factors are very important things to remember when we talk about International Women's Day. థ్యాంక్ యూ.
కాంపిటేటివ్ ఎగ్జామ్ సంబంధించి ప్రత్యేకంగా సివిల్ సర్వీసెస్ ఎగ్జామ్ సంబంధించి ఏ ఆప్షన్ చూస్ చేసుకోవాలి, ప్రిపరేషన్ ఎప్పుడు స్టార్ట్ చేయాలి, ఏ బుక్స్ రిఫర్ చేయాలి, ఇలాంటి డౌట్స్ ఉంటే CSBIS అకాడమీని కాంటాక్ట్ అవ్వచ్చు. దీనికి సంబంధించి నా పర్సనల్ అపాయింట్మెంట్ ఈ వీడియో పైన డిస్ప్లే అవుతున్న కాంటాక్ట్ నెంబర్కి ఫోన్ చేసి తీసుకోవచ్చు.